Ready? Okay, this time I'd like to call the September 16th, 2021 regular meeting of Common Council to order. It's 5 p.m. Please rise and join me for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Garland, will you please conduct a roll call?
Mayor Rosenquist.
Here.
Council Canales.
Here.
Council Kelly.
Here.
Council Gibbs.
Here.
Council Talon.
Here.
Council Bob. Here. Council Moore.
Here.
All councilors have received a copy of the minutes of the September 2nd, 2021 regular meeting. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I'll now take a motion to accept the meetings as presented. Motion by Councilor Canales, second by Councilor Bob. Any changes, deletions, alterations? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I'll now recognize those in the audience who wish to share their thoughts and concerns with the council on any topic. Please come to the podium to be acknowledged when called upon. We ask that you please state your legal name and address for the record, and in accordance with the organizational rules of order, all speakers will be given 5 minutes to address the council. Please.
My name is Rochelle Armstrong, 15 Massachusetts, Plattsburgh, New York. Greetings.
Hello.
Back in June, I asked Mayor Rosenquist whether the city might partner with the school district to conduct an anti-idling, vehicular anti-idling campaign, educational campaign. He declined. Since then, I have reached out to the school district and have appealed to the Board of Education to adopt an anti-idling program I just described. I supplied them with some information, and it is quite chilling. Idling in personal vehicles generates around 30 million tons of carbon dioxide per year. The carbon monoxide emitted from just 1 minute of idling generates more carbon monoxide than 3 packs of cigarettes. Car exhaust fumes have been linked to asthma, decreased lung function, cardiac disease, cancer, and other serious health problems. One car idling for just 5 minutes a day can emit as much as 25 pounds of carbon, and so forth. You get the idea. And the thing is, it's invisible. You know, people don't cough around a car normally, but it is toxic. And especially in school parking lots, it is a big health problem. So several members of the school board have been appreciative of and receptive to my proposal that they develop an educational outreach program and even perhaps an anti-idling policy on school grounds. I believe that they will go ahead and do that. And I'm hoping there'll be lots of public input in favor of it. But I also believe that the city has enormous responsibility to consider anyway an ordinance that would restrict idling. It's been done in many communities throughout the nation. There's a community in Connecticut. It's Wilton, and it has 18,500 citizens. They passed such an ordinance in 2019 at the behest of a high school student and his green team at school. And I just think that's wise. It's a health hazard. So I'm going to appeal to the council. I've got some information that I have that I'd like you to take a look at. There are many, many cities and states nationwide that have instituted such an ordinance. And I think it's in our interest as a city to protect our citizens, And just remember, we signed a pledge in 2019 to be a climate smart community. I'm going to talk, if I have the opportunity at the end of the meeting, a little bit about that program. But we would be living up to the commitment we made in 2019 if we did something like this. Thank you.
So Rochelle, just for clarification, there is no comment at the end of the meeting.
Oh,
So
okay.
you wouldn't have an opportunity at the end.
All right,
Just to
thank
let you
you.
know.
Any other members of the public who wish to share their thoughts and concerns with the council? Please, yep. No, right now. Yep.
Good evening, all. My name is Kelly Metzger. I am the Executive Director for Adirondack North Country Gender Alliance. We are looking to put on our 6th annual LGBTQ Pride event here in Plattsburgh. We've worked very diligently with the mayor and his office. Is Courtney here?
She's not here. And
We want to thank her. She's been a dream. So she's put a lot of work in on our behalf, and we want to publicly acknowledge that. After some confusion with our route, we worked with the mayor's office, who was very good at working with SUNY Plattsburgh, and we have come up with a route that is acceptable to all. So I know you will be voting on this later in the session. But we are looking forward to being our 6th year, bringing LGBTQ pride to Plattsburgh. Our goal is to make this bigger and better every year. The mayor last year offered us to be able to use the streets, saying that pride isn't pride going on the sidewalks. So we are not going to go back to the sidewalks. And I think we're one of the only organizations who's actually brought an event of our size to your city. We are looking for this to grow and expand and really put a positive face on the city of Plattsburgh. And we do look forward to a positive recommendation and approval for our 6th annual event and really make Plattsburgh shine. So thank you for now.
thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Anyone else who wish to share their thoughts and concerns with council on any topic? Seeing none, we'll now go to committee reports. Each standing committee is chaired by a counselor. I'll now call upon that counselor of each committee, starting with city operations, Councilor Canales.
We had a good meeting this past Monday, and several items on tonight's agenda were brought up from that committee. Besides that, nothing to report.
Finance, economic development, I have no report at this time. City infrastructure, Council Moore.
Essentially, we're wrapping up our paving for the year, working on Riley Avenue right now, which I tried to turn up today. Realized it was being done. So aside from that, it looks like a very good year for paving and it's really looking good.
Cogan Avenue is looking really great.
Starting to wrap up also.
Yep. Any idea when that will be completed?
I don't have a copy of the schedule. We are on schedule.
You're on schedule. Okay.
We are on schedule. Like I said, now it's coming together with all the hard work and pipe work, where we saw the slip-on curb went in and the minor course today. Next step will be sidewalks
Mhm.
and 1 yard restoration. We'll finish up with the top of that.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Public safety.
Our regularly scheduled meeting is on Monday. I will be sending requests for a number of reports to the mayor. And I hope that all counselors will attend. And I encourage counselors more in town, if there are things that you would like to hear from department heads, that you also forward that on to the mayor. Other than that, I have nothing to report.
Oh, we'll now move on liaison reports. Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor Coe.
Nothing to report at this time.
Plattsburgh Municipal Department, Counselor Kelly.
Our next meeting is scheduled for September 30th, but I will not be here. So I will attempt to conduct the meeting, or chair the meeting from Zoom. Failing that, I'll ask Mayor Rosenquist if he would step in for us.
Thank you. Ms. Schneller, any staff member reports?
Nothing from my end. No need for executive.
Okay, I'll now entertain a motion to approve the payrolls of various city departments for the weeks ending September 15, 2021 in the amount of $56,804.51. Counselor Kelly, second by Counselor Canales. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yeah.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob? Yes. Counselor Moore?
Yes,
Carried. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the bills audited by the Common Council for the weeks ending September 17, 2021 in the amount of $900,346.86. Motion by Counselor Kelly, second by Counselor Gibbs. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yeah.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob? Yes. Counselor Moore?
yes,
Carried. Before voting on the following resolutions, I will note that the majority of the resolutions have been thoroughly discussed by the appropriate committees and department heads. We're now taking action on these items in large part due to the recommendations of the committees. Ms. Carlin, will you please read the titles of the resolutions to be acted upon?
Item 7.222, award of installation and construction production well number 1.
Motion by Counselor Bob, second by Counselor Canales. Discussion.
Yes, can we get an explanation on this and the funding source for it? Thank you.
So after the number of test wells that have been drilled out around Mead Reservoir, we're moving forward with drilling a production well, which will be big enough to put into service to hopefully start providing some water as a source of supply to supplement and maybe eventually replace the water that we're getting from Mead Reservoir. The source of funds is from the capital project. I think it's 57, 83, 20, 57 or 59. Sufficient funding in there. And we're expecting that this will be partially paid for by WIA grant funds. Once we close on the WIA grant, they provide 60% of the funding towards water projects, with the rest of the financing being through EFC loans.
when do we anticipate this well going online? Sometime this winter?
Not this winter. We're hoping it will be drilled and completed by the sometime in the winter. And then once we know exactly how deep it is and what the sustainable yield is, our engineers can finish the design of the hydraulics and the transmission line and the electric systems that are going to be actually getting that water into the existing transmission system. So hopefully by the end of next year sometime.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob? Yes. Counselor Moore?
Yes,
Carried.
Item 7.223, approval of the increase in fees collected in the city clerk's office effective January 1st, 2022.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Bob. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yeah.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob? Yes. Counselor Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.224, authorizing mayor to execute documents and contracts pertaining to citywide IT hosting solutions.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Kelly. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yeah.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob? Yes. Counselor Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.225, authorized street closures for 2021 Adirondack North Country Gender Alliance Parade.
Motion by Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Talon. Discussion.
Very excited about this. This is fantastic.
Counselor Talon, did you need to add anything based on conversations we've had?
I was just wondering if everybody in the planning group has read the email that Mayor Rosenquist sent today regarding the possible costs that we may be incurring from PD overtime and DPW, and possibly if we can get enough of a volunteer crew involved with the event, then that could eliminate some of the need for the DPW crew. And also there are certain factors about the route that we have chosen that makes it a little bit more difficult. So we might need to discuss it some more perhaps, but we're gonna just, keep going with this tonight.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob? Yes. Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.226, authorizing street closure, Brinkerhoff, Marion, Margaret.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Talon. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob? Yes. Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.227, adopting negative declaration for proposed local law T-4 of 2021 and authorizing filing in accordance with the requirements of state environmental quality review act.
Motion by Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Canales. Discussion.
Yes, can we get a explanation of this? Because we talked about it the other night, but not all counselors were present, so.
Yeah, sure. So this is the final step of the secret process, which is triggered based on the proposed local law P4 of 2021, which was introduced by Councilor McFarland, eliminating off-street or the parking requirements within the city. Several weeks ago, we reviewed, we determined this to be on list of action, and reviewed part 1 and part 2 of the short environmental assessment form. As a result of that review, there was one question which was answered in the affirmative or answered such that there may be a moderate to large impact, and that was whether proposed action will result in a change in the use or intensity of the use of land. Because that was answered in the affirmative, that triggered the need to complete part 3 of the short environmental assessment form. With the resolution adopted by the council authorizing me to prepare a draft narrative. They did that, circulated to the council several days ago. And if you had seen it, that part 3 narrative described how any potential impacts on the intensity of use were largely anecdotal at this point, or speculative, and that there are additional provisions in the code which would control any future project, which would be subject to its own independent environmental review. So based on those parameters, there was those potential moderate to large impacts did not trigger the need to prepare an environmental impact statement.
So
Such that a negative declaration would be issued.
So individual projects, if, based on this law, proposed law, it's not a law yet, proposed law, would undergo their own individual review.
Yes.
Okay.
So this resolution is the final step in accepting that part 3 narrative and then issuing a negative declaration such that the preparation of environmental impact statement is not required. This completes the environmental review so that the local law can then be voted on at a subsequent.
So what's the next step then? A
Vote on the
counselor?
actual law. So we completed all of this, if and when this is approved tonight, we completed all the procedural requirements. We referred it to the county planning board under general municipal law, we completed seeker under environmental conservation law. Now this body can act on that proposal.
Have either the planning or the zoning boards provided any documentation to either yourself or the mayor's office?
Yeah, I believe those, not to me directly, but I believe they were submitted as correspondence reports. That's correct. The planning board did, and the zoning board, I can't recall again.
No, have they provided anything that indicates any research, any data? I mean, regarding, why we should pursue P4?
Nothing to me. I'm just aware they provided commentary regarding the actual law itself, but they didn't provide it.
Okay, so commentary, but no data.
As far as that works. But
Okay,
I can't-
that's what I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Further discussion.
Yes.
So, sorry, just to clarify,
Yes.
sorry, this one does not require final affirmative council vote. That's the actual law itself. This is just a majority vote.
All in favor?
Well, you can do a roll call or not, but it's.
Counselor Canales, you said yes.
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob? Yes. Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
7.228, authorizing capital project 85110 from 2021 state resurfacing 3.
Motion. Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Bob, discussion.
Yes, can we get an explanation on this? And the funding?
Its funding is on the resolution. It's the New York State DOT Touring Routes Fund, and this funds the engagement for CNS to do the road design and planning for Margaret, Brinkerhoff, and Court Street.
So what is, I'm gonna ask my question correctly. If we approve the resolution to spend, do we get reimbursed right away for that, or is there a delay, or how does that work?
As the work, for instance, the road project. As we complete a road surfacing project. And then broken down as chips, EWR, maybe, or now we get. Hopefully it's, we submit a reimbursement paperwork quarterly, or and we'll have, once the work is completed, they'll tell us there's a threshold we have to reach as far as how much is completed.
Okay.
As far as the progress payments. That, they say that.
Yes, that's clear. I guess I always become concerned when, and that's why the purpose of the question. I always become concerned about we're going to go ahead and spend, and this is not specific to this project or anything else in particular on the agenda tonight, but I'm just in general to make sure that we're getting reimbursed in a timely fashion. And so that was the reason for the question, like how long does it take? Because I want to make sure that our fund balance doesn't deplete in a way that, or any parts of our budget, not just fund balance, but any parts of our budget don't deplete in a way that we didn't anticipate. That was the reason for the question.
The goal is as soon as we obtain, obviously, have to provide certified payroll, purchase orders, proof of payment. Once that's all, and we're actually working on our latest chips reimbursement paperwork as we speak, getting all together. It turnaround goes to the information speed to how fast it comes. So it's 90 days. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes longer. DRI money, haven't gotten that much on it, about 1.8 million that's in it on DRI.
So 1.8.
Different state programs.
Mhm.
Different reimbursement. You gotta spend it to get it.
Mhm.
And then you wait to get it.
Right.
It's all cash. It doesn't affect income.
Roll call.
I just want a clarification. No, this is probably just a typo order. It says $68,009, 68,000. I'm assuming that it's 68,000.
68,000. Mine says 68,000.
What was it submitted as? I think it was 68,000 even.
Yeah,
Because mine, yeah, mine says 68,000 as well. There's a typo on this. Let's see.
In wording.
In the wording, the spelling out of the number.
Yeah, that's like.
All right, sorry about that. Oh, yeah. I see. Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yeah.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob? Yes. Counselor Moore?
Yes,
Carried.
Item 7.229, authorize award for Margaret Street concept study and design report.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Bob. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yeah.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob? Yes. Counselor Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.230, budget adjustment, general fund and water fund, unbudgeted expenditures.
Motion. Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Bach, discussion.
Yes, can I get an explanation on this one as well?
We talked about this as a pilot program for the solar compact
Oh,
garbage.
right, okay. Now I recognize it.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yeah.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes,
Carried.
Item 7.231, budget transfer, rec complex fund beach implementation plan continuation.
Motion. Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Bob, discussion.
What is the amount?
$134,115.00.
Oh,
And that is coming from the unallocated fund.
Correct. Correct.
how, oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. No, go
I was
ahead.
just wondering why we didn't put this in this year's budget, seeing as how we're getting close to that time of year,
In this year's budget or next?
next year's budget.
I think more about the timing of the work that needs to get done. Per the consultant, it's easier to get this work done this fall as opposed to the beginning of the year, given the weather. And also the timing of the next grant cycle, which is early next spring, which we want to get this work done before that.
Is this expense subject to any grant funds as well? or-
Potential in the sense that there's two, we're still working through the ARPA funds that we could potentially backfill some of this work under. Our accountant is looking through that and is going to provide the write-up that pretty much stipulates what we can spend that money on. It seems like this could be one of those things. In terms of infrastructure investment and funding, the other part is a lot of the grants that we do submit require matching funds, which this could also go towards matching funds for those grants.
What is the study going to yield that other studies on the beach haven't yielded?
This is not a study. This is actual investigatory work as outlined by the implementation plan that was presented to the council, which includes, I don't have all of the list, but it's the landfill delineation, landfill mining, which takes samples of the landfill out there to determine what state of decomposition the landfill is in. Wetland delineation outlines where the wetlands are. Some geotechnical work, both on land and in water, to determine if pilings can be installed for piers. Some survey work as well to define the meets and bounds of the property. So there's a significant amount of work out there that needs to be done even before we go into any development or identifying other types of development work to fulfill the implementation plan that's been presented.
Does this encompass the entire beach property from Snow Ocean Creek?
Yes,
Over,
yes. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
No.
Council Gibbs?
No.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
no,
Yes, Mayor.
I'll be a yes on that one.
Mayor breaks the tie. Item 7.232, authorizing capital project H5110.81, 2021 parking equipment purchase.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Bob, discussion.
Yes, how many, it's 14, right? 14,
Correct.
Yes. So
and we discussed this Monday night, but was kind of unclear about the exact location of all of them. Can you explain? Because I wasn't in the infrastructure committee for this, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could you-
Two of them will be placed at the western end of the Broad Street parking lot. There is a small raised concrete platform that was built into the expansion of that lot specifically for the eventual installation of the kiosks. For the Marty Pavone lot, there will be two along Margaret Street and one along Oak Street, again, in precast concrete structures specifically designed for these kiosks. There would be two in the Court Street lot next to Olive Ridley's. There would be two in the counties, in the public sections of the county's government center parking lot. There would be one at the
small city hall place lot right down the street, and there would be 4 total spread out amongst, out at City Beach, starting at the vendor building and going down towards the impact house.
So the funding for this was really confusing to me. Could you explain the funding for this? Like where we're getting the money for it? I read the resolution, but Jeff and I were talking about it last night and I wasn't clear on that. Is that something you could explain?
I believe it's all being charged as a capital project under the parking fund, correct, Rich?
Yeah, probably have to borrow money. We're gonna have to borrow money at the end of this year because we've done a lot of massive capital projects. I think we're gonna be in the neighborhood of 4 million.
4 million in total capital project borrowing at the end of this year.
Yeah.
Is that but that's not our total debt altogether, obviously.
It'd be 4 million, yeah.
So in the report that we got from this massive accounting report, Bulris and
Yeah.
okay. Did our percentage of debt increase? Jeff, what were you talking about last night? 18%?
Last year. yeah,
Last year,
According to the.
For instance, the debt service, like we went over the meeting, during this year for the general fund, it's going to be 634. Next year it's 1,909. Debt service went up
Mhm.
in 2021, for 2000, excuse me, in 2021, it's going up for the debt service for 2021 versus 2020. We borrowed a $6.8 million debt last year. 2020. So the first payment doesn't come due until 2021.
Okay.
So debt service goes down as you pay it off, and it goes up as you borrow more. We're gonna be borrowing more because we're doing a lot of capital projects.
Right. So
So
I,
would you, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Would you repeat those numbers, Mr. Marks? It
I'm
was,
quoting them from memory, so don't quote me on it, don't hold my feet to the fire on it. It's 1,634,000, I believe, this year, and it's 1,909,000 next year, just in the general fund,
so an additional $300,000.
of debt service in the general fund for next year.
Okay.
That's coming due from projects that were bonded in 2020. In 2020,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah. And like I said, we'll be looking at borrowing 4 million more. Now, we'll probably do that as an advance, what they call a bond anticipation note, until we gather enough to go out to the marketplace and actually post serial bond.
And that additional 4 million in bonding will bring our debt service payments to roughly.
No, I'm not including that anywhere yet.
I understand. I'm
It's
asking
going to increase it. in
what will
2000.
happen to the debt service with
It'll increase
additional.
in 2022 because the ban will require a 1-year payment, probably in the neighborhood of $4 million plus interest. And then depending on what we do next year for project advances and need to borrow, we'll put the roll forward of that ban together with new debt next year and, get $5 or $6 or $7 million like we did in 2020 for $6.8 million.
In the infrastructure committee meeting, had a couple weeks ago, we discussed this in detail, and I think Matt explained that this would cost about $149,000 to implement, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
And we were hopeful that we would have more than that in revenue.
Yeah, the important thing to note about this proposal is that these kiosks are revenue generating assets, and based on discussions with our vendor from results that he's seen from other municipalities, other clients throughout the Northeast, these kiosks pay for themselves sometimes in as little as a matter of months. But it's rare that he has seen it take more than 2 years for them to repay based on the revenue that they collect.
So one of the things that I'm hopeful about is that those revenue projections will pan out. And I think you said in that meeting that the amount of money that we charge will be dictated largely by whatever it costs us to install this product. So do you have any idea at this point what we're going to charge for citizens to park downtown?
It's an ongoing discussion, but as a base minimum, considering the exchange fees and the credit card processing fees for the average person parking downtown, I would set a floor of about $1 an hour for parking. And then any permit system that the council sees fit to implement downtown, those fees would be as a supplement to that hourly parking that is derived from each revenue from the kiosks.
So speaking of permits, then that was gonna be my next question. Do you anticipate that we will be issuing permits? And will these permits be for discounts for parking or no
Yeah.
charge for parking?
We do intend to implement a permit system. That was one of the recommendations from the city's parking committee 2 years ago. As far as, what was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
Oh, boy.
The discounts, yeah. These would be generally for people who work downtown, who have to park downtown on a more or less daily basis, 5 days a week. We don't want to charge those folks 8 hours of parking every time just for them to come to work.
So they might get a monthly pass or
They
something
would get
like
to
that.
some form of a monthly pass or an annual pass at a slight discount to the rate for a monthly pass if, and again, this is all subject to council approval, of course.
Okay.
So I'm all for the paid parking system, have from the beginning. I guess my question is, do we really need this many? So for example, that Broad Street lot, it's pretty small. Do we really need 2 parking meters there? The Court Street lot that you're talking about is small. Do we really need 2 there? Is there a way, or I don't know if this was discussed in the infrastructure committee, so pardon me if it has been, but if we're going to invest in paying for these and then turn around and charge parking based on what we have to invest in upfront in order to recoup from the fees, it would make more sense to me if we put in fewer and reevaluate in a prescribed amount of time and decide, well, maybe 1 in the Broad Street lot isn't enough. I would hate to see us invest in something that's going to cost us more upfront and have to charge more to cover the cost if we could do it cheaper. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So I don't know how the rest of the council feels about that, but I'm looking at some of these smaller lots and it seems like a lot of kiosks for a small lot.
We
So
basically recommend a number of kiosks on an industry standard of about 30 parking spaces in an off-street lot per kiosk. So in the Broad Street lot, there's about 80 spaces. So 2 kiosks, actually based on that ratio, we're underestimating. So 2 kiosks would be 60 spaces. So we've got 20 extra spaces beyond what the industry recommends. For the Pavone lot, there's 103 spaces and we're recommending 3 kiosks. So 3 times 30 is 90. So we've got about 13 extra spots in excess of demand. In the Court Street lot, there's a little more than 60, so we're right there with 2 kiosks. In the county lot, there's about 69 spaces, and we're recommending 2 kiosks, so right about that same ratio. Actually, the biggest discrepancy is probably in the Court Street lot, because I believe there's only 17 spaces, and we are putting 1 kiosk there, so we're a little over there. But the biggest point for putting this number is convenience for the consumer, the person who is coming in and paying for parking, so they're not waiting in a long line just to pay for parking. But again, it's an industry recommended standard. I've seen it in multiple sources, and that's what we base the numbers on.
okay.
And I don't believe
Thank
that the fee being charged is not indicative of the amount that's being spent. The fee being charged is based on the demand of the product itself.
Well, I'm all for the paid parking, but, I'm thinking, why are we putting 4 down at the beach right now? It's 9 months before anybody will be using those again. And we'll have a lot better handle on how many we need. And if nothing changes and no paintings are coming back again next summer, it seems like a big expense to get, kiosks down there if there's no need for them. And we're looking at least 9 months before anybody's gonna be using that parking lot again, so.
Well, it's not just, also just keep in mind, it's not just Canadian traffic that come down there that we charge. We do charge
Yeah.
folks regionally as well.
No one's gonna be coming there over the winter. I mean, there's not gonna be a lot of people.
The kiosks aren't gonna be,
It's an extra winter on the.
yeah, but the kiosks, I believe, are not even gonna be online until when?
Yeah, there's a winterization process. Basically, they wrap them up so damage from the elements is limited during the winter.
And so why would we put them out there and put an extra year of use on it? And I'm thinking along the lines of Councilor Gibbs is, you know, we need all of them. We don't even know yet how much usage they're gonna get. But, you know, just saying.
Like the council to keep in mind that this is years in the making. This is not just something that came up last month at the committee meeting. This is based on a number of independent professional studies that the city had hired several years ago, parking committee recommendations as well.
Well, I'm all for the parking. Just wondering if we need this many kiosks, that's all. They aren't cheap.
It'll pay off dividends in the long run. I think if we do the initial investment now, it's gonna pay off in the future. So,
Yeah, but they're gonna have to pay anyway, whether there's 2 kiosks, 1 kiosk. To park there, you're gonna have to go and use the kiosk. It's not gonna be, well, there's only 1 kiosk, I don't have to pay for parking, that's
it's a lot of what ifs.
not the.
That's all that is. It's what
Anyway.
ifs.
The only thing that gives me confidence that this is a good plan, or well, not the only thing, I shouldn't say that, but one of the things that gives me confidence that this is a good plan is that the gentleman who came and presented to us at the infrastructure committee meeting seemed very competent in what he does. And I think I trust his recommendations. If me being a somewhat elderly person myself, I don't want to walk halfway across the parking lot to pay. I want to have a kiosk that's close to where I am able to park. So I think we're okay. I think if we did discover through some data collection that 1 or 2 or even a half a dozen of the kiosks remain unused, then take them out. You know, don't pay the license fees for things that we can't use. But if this gentleman who spoke to us at the infrastructure meeting recommends 14, I think I would go with that. I think the only area where I might say, well, let's wait, would be the beach. That if you wanted to wait on those, that wouldn't bother me at all. But
Well, for the beach specifically, we are looking at reducing the number of one employee or 2 employees that man the booth. And that would offset any payroll costs for that person that has to collect those fees.
yes,
Okay,
but we'll probably spend that on enforcement. You know, one of the things we discussed in that
Mhm.
meeting was enforcement.
That's right.
How important
That's
that
right.
is to successful parking.
That's right. So, but you're also looking at, if we are gonna increase enforcement, you're also looking at, you know, not only the revenue stream of the kiosks themselves, but also ticketing enforcement as well.
I
or
think
fines-
what would
fines
make me
enforcement.
feel really comfortable is if we could see some sort of projection on what these additional costs are for enforcement, for maintenance of these items, what's the license fee that we pay every month? Put all that into some kind of statement for the council and let us look at it and see if it is in fact a good investment. We believe it is. I believe it is. But I'd like to know, are we actually going to make money on this thing? Have we taken into account all of the expenses that might occur? And I don't know that we've gone through that exercise yet.
Scenarios laid out various situations over the past 3 years.
Do you think the council could see the latest? Do you think the council could see the latest study that you've done?
Yeah.
I think that might help us.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibb?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
No,
Carried.
Item 7.233, authorizing service agreements for phase 1 consulting service for city beach implementation.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Bach, discussion. Again, this goes back to the two resolutions before regarding the scope of work that's being funded. Further discussion, roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibb?
How much is attached to this, the cost?
100, the council just passed that resolution.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, $134, $134,115.00.
I hate the fact that there's just the title on this resolution with, because that's what I get, I think I'm forgetful or I miss things, so yes, my answer is yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
no,
Carried.
Item 7.234, authorized temporary access agreement for Saranac River Trail improvements on Brody property.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Counselor Kelly, sorry. Discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yeah.
Council Gibb?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.235, authorized police department employee to travel to Albany, New York for courtroom training for certified drug recognition experts.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Bop, discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yeah.
Council Gibb?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Finding resolutions and order of city of Plattsburgh pursuant to Article 17 of the New York General Municipal Law regarding the proposed annexation of property located on Reed Lane.
Motion. Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Bop, discussion.
Yes, this came in at 12 o'clock today. I did not have a chance to read anything regarding 7.236 or 7.237. When these, and it's not short, there's lengthy documentation. When these come in late like this, council doesn't have enough time to approve these. I'm sorry, it doesn't have enough time to really read it over and digest it before we come in for the meeting. And I would like to make a motion that we table 7.236 and 7.237 until council has had enough time to read them over, and then reintroduce them at the next council meeting for approval. So I'd like to make a motion to table them, not because I disapprove of them, but I haven't had any time to read them at all. So I would like to make a motion to table. That's Councilor Bob seconds that.
You want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I'd like to chime in. First off, I apologize. It was entirely my fault. I had computer issues earlier this week. I wanted to get it out sooner, but I finally got it fixed yesterday and got this together. I strongly recommend against tabling this, and I can summarize this. This is not anything new. This is actually a great advancement for the city. So as you know, we've been dealing with this annexation issue. It was first contested, was in early. We entered into the compact with the town of Plattsburgh, which resolved various controversial issues. One of which was this contested annexation proceeding. The town, as part of that compact, this town agreed to consent to the city's proposed annexation of both Reed's Lane and the second resolution. That consent is authorized by the general municipal law and only applies to uninhabited city-owned property as opposed to privately held property where it's a more traditional route. So there's an expedited route built into the general municipal law to allow a fast-track annexation proceeding. The town initially resisted, but again, in early 2021, they agreed to go through this process. So what this resolution represents is the confirmation of the town's action, which they took on August 26th. The town board met by their own town board action, consented to the city's annexation of Reed Lane and Sharon Avenue. The town adopted their own findings and determination of order, which concluded, as does this, that annexation follows the statutory requirements, that the annexation itself, respectively, Reed and Sharon, is in the overall public interest, and that this filing can be circulated and recorded. If, so the town took that action on August 26th. If the city does nothing for 90 days, then we've deemed approved our own requested annexation. But why wait? The longer there's some subsequent steps that are necessary, you'll see a local law coming in. So this is adopted. You'll see a local law coming not tonight, but the next meeting likely, which redraws the city's boundaries and places this parcels into a respective ward. And then there'll be some additional survey work, which won't involve council action, but just basically map filing. So if we delay this, it's fine, no harm done, but we're basically just waiting for no reason because our next council meeting is first week of October. So again, this resolution, these resolutions confirm that annexation is appropriate and enough.
Does council feel comfortable with this moving forward? And I will withdraw my motion to table if council feels comfortable with this.
I get to vote.
Sorry?
Councilor Bach, do you, okay, so I will withdraw my motion to table.
Yeah, this is just delays moving forward on this. It doesn't make any sense.
Will this turn into its own board? Well, let's,
No, it's, I don't have the maps in front of me.
Sharon will,
Whatever's contiguous.
yeah, so Sharon will go into Ward 1, Reed will go into Ward 3.
and Mayor, you and I had spoken about, as enshrined in the charter, a districting commission, especially following census. And is this going to move that forward? I think that the county, excuse me,
Yeah.
is so obnoxious. That's okay, it's not your fault.
Welcome to downtown Plattsburgh.
So what, I guess what I'm saying is what happens next? That if this goes through and we're
Yes, it
talking about
does. Yes,
redistricting,
it does trigger a, I believe it's a mandatory redistricting, given the nature of the property, that it does not hold residents at this time. It may be a fairly quick redistricting commission that opens a meeting, identifies that these parcels go into their respective wards, make the recommendation back to the council, and then kind of dissolves itself. The other argument or the other concern about the county's redistricting is being postponed to 2022. And I forgot, I talked to Mike Zerlo about that. I forgot why, but that's being postponed to 2022, and as discussed, may or may not trigger a redistricting commission in the city of Plattsburgh. If the political area boundaries of the county do not change, is deemed maybe potentially that the city political boundaries also do not change. And if that's the case, we may not need a redistricting based on census data. But for something like this, we may need a redistricting commission created just to identify, officially, I say identify the areas where the wards where these individual properties would then fall under. All right, there was a motion to table was withdrawn. There is a motion on the floor to adopt 7.236. Any further discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Item 7.237, adopting final resolution in order of municipal law regarding the proposed annexation of property located on Sharon Avenue.
Motion by Councilor Canales, second. Counselor Bach, discussion. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. No executive session. Is there any new business to come before this council?
Yes, I had a question for you, Mayor. On September 3rd, I requested the police and code enforcement budgets be shared with counselors Moore and Talon because we did not sit in on the budget meetings that you had,
The proposed
the
budget?
proposed budgets, and my request was denied. We have a public safety meeting on Monday. Will you provide the proposed budgets to counselors Talon and Moore and myself? I don't know what their proposed budgets are, so we may have some time to review them.
At this point, there are no 2022 proposed budgets. I proposed no budget for 2022 yet.
No, the departments have. I mean, I sat in with the fire department
The
and
departments have sent their requested budgets in, but I have proposed nothing at this point.
so that's no.
Again, all the, like, as I've outlined, I don't know how many times, maybe 3 or 4, if not more, the process that we're going through to review the departmental requested budgets. Those budgets have changed maybe as many times as I've talked to them. And at this point, at the end of the month, when we go through, and not even at the end of the month, in another week and a half, when we go through the public hearings, every counselor will be present, every department head will be present. We'll go line by line through every single departmental budget. And everybody at that point will have access to any changes that have been made in conversation with department heads based on what they've requested. Based on the numbers that I've looked at and worked with them and you on individual departments. And then we can make further changes, reviewing again details of those departmental budgets. Any more new business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Bob. We're adjourned 6 p.m.